What does it mean to experience a spiritual or kundalini awakening? Does activating our pineal gland open new doors and allow us to tap into our third eye and attain greater spiritual awareness beyond our ordinary senses? Is there a spiritual aspect to the UFO phenomena and to greater consciousness? Are our very origins tied to other beings who have been visiting us and the Earth since ancient times? Does phenomena like near-death experiences help us gain insight into what lies beyond once we pass on? Spiritual healer and intuitive Mike Seniff joins me to talk about these things and more on this episode of Passion for the Paranormal. Okay, so joining me tonight is Mike Seniff. And Mike grew up in Northern California, and since he was a young child has been experiencing spirits and considers himself to be highly empathic, telepathic, and telekinetic, and also considers himself to be an enlightened, self-realized intuitive, clairvoyant, healer, and ascended master, and has experienced many supernatural events. Mike currently has a healing jewelry business and works with people worldwide, providing healing and clarity via one-on-one sessions and live shows, and collaborates with other spiritual healers and yogis. Mike has also just completed his first book, The Healing Garden. Greetings, Mike, and welcome to the show.
Greetings. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on. And it's always interesting to have people with your talents on the show. And I always think they're enlightening and interesting discussions. The other thing I like to do is I always like to kind of get the backstory of my guests, how this journey progressed for you, but really take us back to how this kind of started for you. And then how was that turning point that really led you into the work you're doing now?
I got it. Yeah, I'll try to compress it for you. When I was really young, right off the bat, very empathic, being able to feel people's emotions and hear people's thoughts. Saw a lot of spirits when I was younger, shadows, kind of call them shadow people. Saw a lot of shadows when I was younger, a lot of visions, seers kind of run in my family. The Sicilian part of my family, they would see things that were happening in the future. Happened a lot growing up. I grew up in a Bay Area, we grew up poor and a little bit tougher areas. So being empathic was it was tough, really kind of feeling others. And growing up in that situation, you're kind of learn to turn off yourself, if you will. Grew up in gangs and violence and went to the Marine Corps. I was in 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, infantry, and just learned a lot about life through death. I had a letter to play football, and instead I went to the Marine Corps. Learned a lot. I started awakening up spiritually, realizing that what we thought a lot of people think is truth and what was happening really wasn't happening. There was a lot of things that I went through we weren't allowed to talk about, and it really changed me, transformed me. When I got out of the Marines, I kind of just wanted to get away from it, to be honest with you. Back in 96 through 99, 2000, people weren't really talking about PTSD or anything like that. Came out after everything that I went through, kind of left the Marines as much as possible. I was boxing when I was in the Marines, doing a lot of fighting, got away from all that. Unfortunately, kind of got plunged right back into street life. I became a music producer and a rave DJ, and there was a lot of MDMA that was going on around. And just to be quite honest with you, which people know as ecstasy, what happened though when that started being taken was it just ignited my empathic and telepathic abilities, like through the roof, to the point where, I was full on reading people, knowing what they were saying in their head. So it kind of just reignited everything. I started kind of having flashes when I was a child, and it kind of all came back to me. And there was a lot of stuff that happened. Tried to get away from that life. My first marriage, left. I moved from California to Idaho with my first wife. Became like a youth minister, a gang minister. Changed my whole life. Got away from all the drugs, all the gangs, all the violence. But the spiritual sense was strong, and I started feeling like I need to help people. But I was still working in corporate. I've always been really good with business. Was working for multiple Fortune 500 companies at that point, just to kind of fast track all this for you. And kept seeing visions, started seeing the future. A lot of stuff that's happening right now I was seeing back then. I was telling my mother and my father that passed recently, I was telling him what was going on. And it's kind of nerve-wracking to feel like you see what's happening. So kind of repressed as much as I could. got pushed to leave corporate life. I started my own businesses, had a bunch of homes, and basically lost it all in the housing market crash like 2007. Long story short, I mean, to the point of the marriage loss, almost basically being homeless, and went through like a whole nother awakening, refound myself through all of that, really questioning what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. And as the more that I went deeper within myself, the more that I was finding who I truly was, and my gifts were coming to me stronger. I could see stronger. I could read people. I don't really like saying reading, but I could hear their thoughts and kind of be one step ahead of everything as it's happening. Got back into doing corporate work just to get back on my feet. Found my second wife. We had a child, and went through another deeper awakening back then. This is around 2010 and 11. I really woke up to seeing a lot of the lies of the media, the government. A lot of people are kind of have wakened up to a lot of things that are happening without running down that rabbit hole. But it was a deeper awakening, kind of getting a bigger picture, if you will, of everything. And, you know, some people pigeonhole what they can see, and my vision started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I could see a lot. And it caused a big rift when you start to wake up to seeing all these things, the toxins in our food and the air, the way people are acting, everything. I just started backing away from a lot of things. I left the church because the people didn't want me to do gang ministry anymore because they found out I've been in a gang. Well, of course, that's why I could help people that have been there. But so I kind of started back away from all religions and everything. And we divorced, and my son visits me now, but it plunged me into, you know, being extremely sad. And once again, looking into everything, who I was, what I wanted to be. Moved from Nevada to Arizona, where I'm at now. That's actually where I've met some really amazing people like Jamie, for instance, and went through another deeper awakening. Something about Arizona here, there's a lot of ley lines, vortexes, energy here is different. And I mean, it was really just like God being on me, spirit, divine source, whatever construct people want to use, being on me and helping me heal, which has been an inspiration of the book that I just released. And really people just coming to me for the last 4 years. I believe I'm supposed to speak with you. I don't know why. Me seeing these people in a vision earlier that day and just continuously being like that, speaking and helping people and heal people. And it's just been like that ever since. I mean, it just keeps stepping up more and more to where now I'm helping heal people around the world. I do one-on-one video chat sessions with people. One day it could be someone from Iran, and then the next day I'm doing the UK and Australia or in America. And it's just really teaching people how to help heal themselves and get past their drama and their trauma. I mean, I've gone through drug addictions, multiple marriages, homelessness, abuse, you name it. So since I've been there, I have the ability to see it in other people, and I can kind of tell what they've been through. And I was a tattooer for the last 15 years too. So when I tattoo people, it was the same thing. I could see their traumas and what they went through, and all this leading to me knowing this, that I'm meant to help people because I can feel them and I know what they've gone through and I know what's helped heal me. So once you know yourself, then you're able to help heal others and help them heal themselves. And that for me is what this has been about. But there's been a lot of paranormal things around me my whole life. I like to call it the supernatural. People call it the supernatural. Supernatural events and paranormal things around me is very normal. And in fact, on May 26th, the super full blood moon total eclipse, I was out with someone that I have footage where we were seeing light Merkabas, and I guess if you'd want to call them UFOs, but there were definitely lots of things that happened at night we can talk about. But to make a long story short, that's where I'm started, where I'm at now, and making me realize my purpose is to help heal others and help them heal themselves. So
now, Mike, I've talked to a lot of people who have similar abilities to you that have been on the show. So I think you mentioned that you had other family members that have these abilities. Talk about that and how that changed you.
Most definitely. On my mom's side, we call her Nana, my Nana and my great Nana, they're from Sicily. They came over during World War II. And my great Nana, she was a healer and she is a strong seer. So she could see things before that they happen. Now, I believe we all have the ability to do this, but I do believe in families, there's people that are more awakened to it, and it helps certain people kind of be stronger in it, if you will. So that was passed from my mom's side, but my father, growing up, you know, I mean, I'm 44, born in 77. I remember in the early 80s, my mom and dad having friends over, having parties. And I mean, my dad was one of those guys that was like bending spoons. So, you know, just looking at, I grew up with that. My dad was very, very intellectual. And there's a lot of people that come to me now and they're like, telling me about, you know, the Illuminati and all these things. And it's amazing and it's awesome. People are waking up. But like, those are things my dad was telling me like when I was 16 or 17 years old. So, I mean, he was just way ahead of his time. So my mom and my dad both were not well. My mom's super empathic. She'll go into everyone's emotions immediately. And I'm that way as well. But I picked up the scene. I'll see things and then later that day they'll happen. And now I'm getting to where I can almost, I know it sounds crazy, but I can create, I'll think of it how I want it to go. And then later that day, it just happens like that.
Wow.
So,
yeah. Talk about when you had your first paranormal experience as a kid.
yeah, the first one that I can remember when I was a kid, and I was very young. I think I was living in Pleasanton, California. I must have been, I think maybe third grade, around there, second, third grade. And maybe even earlier. And I was on a bus and I could hear like almost whispers and seeing shadows on the playground playing with the kids. And then once I saw them, I just kept seeing them. And even my son, he's 10 and he sees shadows. And I never even said anything to him about it. And a couple of years ago, he asked me. So he has a lot of that too. And, but yeah, I'd see shadows and spirits would come to me a lot for a long time. And then I finally learned kind of how to speak with them so I could move forward. And so I've learned a lot about that through the years too, that we can expand on. But yeah, I'd say that was probably one of my first paranormal, was the shadow people, if you will, spirits, not fully showing themselves, but not a rewind either. Cause we can talk about that. I've seen rewinds, what I call them rewinds, where they're just replaying their trauma in that space, in that time, because quantumly time doesn't exist. It's all happening all at the same time. But then there's actually spirits that are that purgatory, fourth dimension. Some say that need help passing. So just as I help the living, I help the ones that are in that in-between state as well. So
yeah, that's good that you mentioned that. That's I talk a lot about that on the show. You know, I mentioned to you that I've been involved in paranormal investigating for a number of years. Let's talk about that. You know, when you say they're in this kind of this fourth dimension, now are these people that are kind of just trapped in still in this earthly plane where, you know, a lot of us dwell? Are and if so, what is kind of keeping them here versus say moving on to that next level?
That's amazing questions. You know, I tell people all the time, I don't know if I'm right, but I can only tell you how I feel. We are powerful, and I believe we're reincarnated over and over. I've kind of awakened to a lot of my past lives, and I think the issue with some of these spirits is they will not allow themselves to pass. They are holding on and holding things against themselves, trying to hold on and not move to the next stage, if you will. Like a butterfly first was a caterpillar and is in a cocoon, right? I believe these caterpillars that are refusing to get into cocoon to become a butterfly, if that makes sense. So that's my feeling to it, because I have, for a while, I started getting a lot of them around 2010 and 11, like extremely, like doors opening up all over, hearing whispers, wondered, like just not leaving me alone. And I finally started realizing that I needed to speak with them. Like, hey, I hear you. I know you're here. I love you. You can go, you can move forward. And then like one by one, they would just leave. So I started realizing it's just like people, they get caught up on something. So people get stuck in this life on an old relationship, right? They can't move forward in their life because they're just stuck on the past. To me, that's what these spirits are. This energy won't leave this realm. It won't leave this dimension because there's multiple dimensions. As someone that spiritually works in this quantum healing, there's times I'll see photons and everything dissipate, and I'll feel heat when I touch someone. We're working in another dimension. That fourth is in between from this lower vibratory higher, that heavy density third was where we're at. These spirits are keeping themselves. That's where that purgatory comes from, I believe. Once they get that help to say it's okay to move forward, they're acknowledged. I understand you. I feel you. I know you're here. You can move forward. And a lot of times they'll move forward. And when you hear a lot of other experiences, when people go out, a lot of like the ghost hunting and stuff, they say, hey, I know you're here. The first time I ever saw that, I started crying because I don't really watch a lot of TV. I haven't for a long time. I don't really watch other people or anything anymore. I'm very isolated so I can be pure when I help people. So my son wanted to watch stuff about 3 or 4 years ago about ghosts because he was seeing them. And when I saw that, it just brought tears in my eyes because it was the same thing I was saying. And yeah, once we can encourage them, we know they're here. It helps them understand that they can let go and move forward because they're scared just like we are. They're scared that where are they going to go? What's going to happen? And we're energy. Energy never dies. It just moves to another stage. I tell people it's like water, right? You can boil water and the water becomes steam. It didn't disappear. It just became another form.
Right.
And
it took another state.
Another state of being. And that's us when we pass this realm. We don't die. We just become another form and into the formless, but still exist in another state. So that's my take on that. And I believe that helps them move forward.
Now, what about people that experience trauma? They're in a bad accident, a plane crash, a car crash, something tragic. Do you find that these people often get stuck here or get trapped here after those kinds of events?
Yeah, I get chills when you say that. I've seen a lot of apparitions or ghosts, which when I started about a teenager and even now I started calling them rewinds because they're the ones that you will not really be able to get through to them. And I've seen multiple ones. There's a famous one in Northern California on the back roads between, I believe, like Livermore and Fremont and Hayward. And it was during the 60s, or late 50s, a girl was on her prom date. They got in a really bad crash in like a 55 Chevy and they died. And I seen her walking in her prom dress on the side of the road, and I've seen that. I've seen a lot of accidents. There was one in Nevada where there was a child was hit and killed. I saw him walking on the road. People see a lot of stuff like that, like the Civil War stuff. You'll see them walking. They're still playing out that loop. That's why I call them a rewind. So everything goes cycles within cycles, just as the natives believe. And the human mind is no different than a psyche. So when we're locked into a state of trauma, when we don't get to pass this realm in a loving manner that they can understand, they get in that loop of whatever their trauma was before they left. So like whatever the events were normally right before that happens, they will replay that out because their conscience doesn't realize what's happened to them and it doesn't allow them to move. And a lot of times you really won't be able to connect with them or not. They're just doing their same loop over and over again right before that trauma happened. So, which is sad, but that's what I've seen though. So
that's frightening to think about though. And you wonder in paranormal investigating, you got, I think a lot of people refer to that as a residual haunting.
There you go.
Yeah, something that just keeps playing over and over again. I'm kind of one of those that are on the fence, if you will, on that. Whether it's just somebody going about their business and it's a routine that they do day to day, what have you. I'm not really sure. I'm still kind of on the fence about that one.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think that if people do experience some sort of tragic death, maybe do they even realize that they have perished or that they passed on?
I don't think they do. Because I saw that girl twice before. And the first time I was really scared, kept driving, told my parents about it. I was a teenager and they were like, Yeah, my dad had saw it because they grew up there. And the second time I saw her, because I used to drive back and forth, I drove back and I could see her for a little bit in my rearview mirror, and I was parked and started going in reverse, and it just kind of disappeared. And the feeling that I have on this, I don't know. I can only go by my feeling is I really don't think they know. Just like that child that I saw walking the street, he had his hood on. He was there. I turned around and looked because I had seen him in the paper about a month earlier, and it looked like the kid. And when I turned back, it wasn't there. And there was nowhere for them to go. And I've seen a couple times stuff like that. And I really don't think they know. I do believe in this community, there's people that really can go out to those areas and speak to them. They're really intuitive into that, where they can go out there and it can help try to release that or let them know. But the feelings that I've had when I was there was that spirit doesn't know what's happened to them. They just kind of keep reliving that. They don't know what happened. So
yeah, it certainly is sad to think about that somebody could be replaying some sort of tragic event or what happened right up to that particular event. I want to talk about this idea of this spiritual awakening. You hear a lot of talk about that. What's kind of your sense of where we are today? Are people starting to experience a spiritual awakening, or are you optimistic? Where do you see things present?
I love that. I love that you bring that up, because I've been speaking very strongly on social media, on Instagram and TikTok for about the past 4 years, especially Instagram. I'm highly engaged with my page at Third Eye Essence. And I do believe there has been an awakening. A lot of people are starting to see the bigger picture, but the fact is the more that you become enlightened and understand it, once you open your eyes, it's a cycle. You awaken, then you can go back to sleep and awaken up. But I do believe there is a lot of people that are finally starting to wake up and see the bigger picture, which I believe is that we're all connected. We're all one. I believe, my personal belief is that all things are connected. We're all of divine source or God, universe, whatever construct you want to use. There's a connection between all of us, and we're all one. A lot of people are starting to wake up to seeing that, not as much judging everyone else, kind of hearing everyone else to see what we feel. And I do see that more and more in the community that I've been working with, but it's isolated groups of people. You may work with a bunch of people and see that, then you go out and you see how other people are acting. So spiritual has been going on for a long time. From Buddha to Christ to yogis to all. So it really is, each person's on their own path and journey. So I've gotten to where I just hate putting labels on stuff, but sure. I work with people that are awakening, and as long as they believe they're awakening and they're open with their heart, and that's all someone like me needs to help them out and help them find their own way. So,
yeah. And I don't, that this not to be confused with the political term wokeness or woke that a lot of people are talking about nowadays. Yeah. I don't think we're quite talking about the same thing as that. Yeah. There's also in kind of these spiritual work like that you're involved in, there's the term kundalini or kundalini awakening. Yeah. Can you talk about that and kind of what that means?
Yeah, to make it briefly, kundalini, that's why I called myself Third Eye Essence for my page. Talking about the that we have, going back to esoteric knowledge and realizing that the pineal gland that we have really gives us our third eye. We have ability to see past the veil. So when we speak about this, a great awakening or a kundalini awakening, a third eye awakening, some people call it Buddha nature, Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness. It's seeing past the veil, which I have experienced and I've helped show other people. Our minds, we've been taught what is real and not real, what is possible and not possible. As you believe, so shall you be. If you already believe that something's not going to be there, then you're not going to see it. And mostly everything is hidden in plain sight. So as you wake up and your pineal gland with meditation and really being still and calm is what I've learned. You don't need to take pills or medicines and all this other stuff. Knowing thyself and going inward is what I teach a lot. When you start to do that, you really observe yourself. you observe the observer, and you see your actions. You're able to understand why you do what you do, and you open up your eyes, and your third eye opens. Some people, they'll feel like a popping sensation. The pineal gland's real. The kundalini awakening is something that really, you will feel it. You'll feel strain on it. Certain types of yoga procedures, and in yoga, not as in stretching, but as in meditation and being still and going inward, you will see differently. So for someone like me that was already grown up intuitive, going deeper within these things, this launched me into where I'm seeing, I'll meditate with open hands, and I'll see photons and molecules between my hands, and I'll feel heat when I heal people. So it really takes you to another level of consciousness awareness. And like Ram Dass said, I'm loving awareness. Once you realize you are loving awareness, you're an expression, we're all fractals of the divine source. You see with your third eye, and it opens up more and more. So a lot of what you thought wasn't possible, you realize it really is just the way you believe it. So whatever you think is real can be real to you. So as you believe, so shall you be. But I believe a lot
of perception is reality.
That's right. That is. So for that kundalini awakening, being a third eye awakening, and some people, I believe, take it a little further than what it is, but I have experienced it and felt it myself. And I believe it's an extrasensory tool for us, for mind's eye, your God eye, your third eye, if you will. And if with practice and open eye meditations and other things, you can feel it. And it does give you the ability, I believe, to feel and see things at a different perspective, rather than just in the daily, I'm working 9 to 5, I'm focused on making money to pay my bills, and that guy cut me off, I'm upset and mad. You get out of all that. You see things differently. And it definitely awakens you to another reality that's possible.
A lot of talk also in spiritual work about frequency and vibration. And how does that come into play with all of this?
Yeah, I believe everything is energy. We really are energy, and frequency and vibration, our auric fields, we put off energy. We're electromagnetic. You can tell when you wear copper or anything, you can smell it and see how our bodies vibrate. When we're aligned, you hear about chakras and things like that. Really, when you let go of all trauma and you let go of all things, you're aligning. So you're aligning your frequency. Frequency is, think of a radio station. Well, most people are only on like 1 or 2 stations. It's survival mode, make money, pay bills, lust, drinking, pleasure, or whatever. So those are the only radio stations a lot of people are tuned to. When you're tuned to that radio station, you listen to that radio station's music, you think like it, you act like it. When you're aligned with divine source, the frequency you're aligned to, you've learned to love yourself. You have the capacity to love others as yourself. You're forgiving yourself and forgiving others. You're not judgmental. You're grateful. You're living in the moment. You're not in the past, worried about the past. You're not worried about the future. Being mindfully present in the moment. When you're like that, you're cleared, and you're aligned to the frequency of source, I believe. Once that frequency is attained, it's like you become that radio station. Now, music has hertz. It's like a waveform. When you are aligned to that frequency, you will start to vibrate at the same hertz or frequency of the attunement of the frequency that you're at. And once you start to vibrate, it's called oscillation. A lot of times when yogis and when I meditate, do long meditations for 4 or 5 hours, you sway. You're oscillating. And I'll take pictures where there's lots of, you can't even see. I have like a rainbow plasma body. There's colors all around me. It's on my Instagram. It's real. I speak with yogis all the time. You emanate colors because you're vibrating. Your auric field is vibrating, and that energy is coming off you. So you're attuned to the frequency of divine source, and you're vibrating, and becomes an oscillation. So when we vibrate like that, our energy is stronger. And as you let go, you are given more. It's a flow and a reciprocation. So for me, in the work that I do, the more I let go and the more I tune to that energy and that more of the alignment of frequency to source comes to me, the more I can give it to others. And it's really freely given so I can help heal people. A lot of times, though, what happens is we get caught up with our own personal desires or the past and trauma, and then we're unable to align with that. And universal law states whatever you give, you're getting back. So if I'm led, I'm getting that back. Of course, there might be other things, but if I'm off and I'm frustrated and angry and I'm giving that insecurity to people, then I'm getting that back too. So that's when you change what you're attuned to. Your frequency is not aligned, you're not grounded, and you're vibrating at a lower level, which normally is going to be insecurity or fear, and then that universe is giving that right back to you. So
yeah, so a lot of people, it seems, would rather be tuned into political talk shows than listening to a discussion you and I are having.
yeah.
Does it seem to you that kind of that people are kind of living in that space a lot of times? Is that kind of that lower vibration level? Everything political seems to always somehow turn to the negative kind of side of things. And what's kind of your sense on that? Is that where you see a lot of people in?
Yeah, I love that you asked that, because a while back, and I'm very apolitical. I mean, I grew up in a family that was very political, and I was in the Marines. I was told this is who you need to vote for and all this. And when all the stuff with Q was going on in Trump, I had a lot of people that were really torn. I was doing these big live shows and people were very upset. And for me, I've done a lot of work with yogis from South India and things like of that nature, prophets and stuff. I've learned to transcend duality and basically pass by, because I love people no matter what they believe in. And to me, my personal opinion is these are all divisive social constructs, because a house divided can't stand. So instead of this person and this person loving each other, who cares if you're right or left or red or blue or Democrat, Republican? But if I can use that to divide you, then I've already won, if I'm an elite state or what people may believe in. So I learned to really transcend that and go beyond it and try to see the bigger picture. I was taught that a long time ago by my father back in like 96 or so. So I've always kind of looked at things like that. I think personally for me, I see that more than ever. What I try to tell people though is polarization is real. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance. People are regurgitating indoctrinated information to each other. And we only argue with people when we're defending something, but you only defend something when it comes to values if you're unsecure about it. Because people fight with me all the time and I just let them. It's not me, it's them. What I tell people is really look at your stance and what that means to you. People get caught up on feeling like they're a part of something. If I can be a part of this, then I feel better that I have someone to lash out and put all my problems on. Like, look, I'm this side's the reason that we're having all these problems. But if you take a step back and you look at that game has been being played for a long time to pit people against each other. So I always ask people to try to take a step back and look at it from a higher level, like a general looking at a battlefield instead of the soldier running that's right in that battle at that moment. Sure. It's a divisive tool, I believe, but you're definitely right. People are caught up in it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like, most people would rather watch a political talk show than, hear these kinds of discussions. But the other thing I wanted to get into is, and you and I talked a little bit before we actually started recording here. I've been following the UFO issue for a number of years, for many years, really, to be quite honest, quietly. How does this, because to me, I think all these unexplained phenomena, to me, there's some sort of tie-in here to all sorts of unexplained phenomena. Yeah. But we've got UFOs in the press now. We've got the mainstream media talking about it. What's kind of your sense of what's going on with all of this right now?
Love it. First off, I think we're going to hear more about it. I think it's going to continue to be a hot topic. You're going to continue to see more shows on the mainstream about it. And you're going to continue to see more people push for the government and other people to keep coming forth with it. I believe I've always seen things since I was a young kid. I would see stars moving around. We'd go camping. I thought I would see something here or there, and tell my mom, dad, like, you didn't see anything. As I've gotten older, I was like always intrigued, you know, watched the shows for a while, like Ancient Aliens and all those things. I do believe the Anunnaki is real. There's some other things where I've talked to a lot of natives. I have a quarter Cherokee in myself, and I spoke with a lot of Hopi here. There's a lot, without going all the way into it, the natives, they definitely were speaking to star beings or other people, if you will. But I still was really skeptical. Like, I felt it, but hey, there must be more out here than just us, but I'm not for sure. But recently, I mean, I really saw some things that really made me realize, at least, I can't sit here and tell you I know exactly what it is, but I can say that there's things out there that we don't know. I mean, when I was at the Sedona, the Boynton Vortex out there, very powerful. You can feel it. There's old ancient Indian temple ruins. We were there for a couple different full moon ceremonies. Felt a lot of supernatural things, but nothing like UFOs or anything. And then on May 26th, I believe, it's the full total like blood eclipse. I mean, 2 moons came up, one dissolved. We saw a spinning moon. I got all this on video. And what I call Merkabahs, because I've studied theology and history and spiritual religious stuff for a long time. And all my Muslim friends talk about Merkabahs. And it literally, and I have video footage of it. They look like, almost like if you would take a golf ball and knock the sides flat, all of the sides flat. First they were a star, and then they would start moving around and look like an arrow. And then they turn into these geometric shapes, and they would start spinning like all different directions at once in flashing colors. They do this for a while, 3 or 4 of them, then they'd stop and go back to the position they were at. And we have it on film. I mean, it's insane. You see them spinning around. And then I have people from mainly South America and then in the Middle East on Instagram send to me pictures, people that didn't feel comfortable posting it on social media. Cause I'll come on and post pictures and speak live on social media. It doesn't matter to me, but there's a lot of people that don't want to post things like that. They sent it to me, and it was astounding of how similar they were. And even beyond that is we saw a huge black triangle that was really fuzzy that these things were coming out of, which was even more crazy. So, I don't know exactly what it was we saw, but I know that it was something that my mind can't comprehend. I don't know what it is. And the first thing I kept thinking as someone that's very spiritual it's a light Merkabah. In the spiritual community, they believe your ascension vehicle when you ascend is a Merkabah. It's a light vehicle. And from all the spiritual teachings that I've taught, and research, that's what these look like. So it was very interesting to see it. I tried to really just observe it and not be like, I caught UFOs on camera, but no, there's something that I saw that I couldn't explain. And that was really, really beautiful. And it didn't feel like it was from here at all. So, yeah.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned the Anunnaki,
Yeah.
Who are the Anunnaki, and what has been kind of their purpose here?
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about that. I mean, I'll give you the information that I know. I have a lot of people. These are things that I normally don't even talk about anymore, but I used to a lot about 4 or 5 years ago. Sumerian text talks about them. A lot of their theology and religion comes from. A lot of people think they're like the progenitors. They're star people or star beings or class race of them that came down somehow and intermingled with humans and changed their DNA somehow to kind of help create what we are now, which we're all from source, but it's very possible that our DNA was manipulated. There's talk of Anu, Enki, and Lil, and other characters that were part of their pantheon of gods and things, if you will. But honestly, when you look back, Göbekli Tepe and all these ancient civilizations, they just found about a week ago in Eastern Africa, they found hand tools that were from 1 million years ago. I think we're moving into the fact that a lot of our history, it wasn't necessarily that we were lied to, we didn't know. I believe we're going to continue to find out more about our history in this next year. I see a lot of change happening right now. I've been seeing that for a while. 2021 is the inverse of 2012. So a lot of spiritual things have happened based off my encounters and such, to not dive too deep in that. But all these things tying together, I think we're going to learn more about our ancient history and us and who we are and where we're from as this awakening is happening spiritually. Because even like you said, I don't know exactly what I saw. You may or may not believe in some of the things I'm saying in UFOs, but a lot of people are starting to go, I don't know why, but I feel like this is all connected somehow. So I do feel like more people are starting to have that feeling. I feel like this is all connected somehow. As we start to realize that we really all are connected and we all are really family on a certain level, I think you're going to see more of our history and be revealed to us. And I think that the star people, the star beings, the Anunnakis, Sumerians, all the tablets that they've talked about, a lot of things are going to tie into that, just like Atlantis or Atlas and all the old generations, from cycles, because everything moves in a cycle. And a lot of the old cycles we just didn't know anything about. And I think we're going to we're finding more out about that as we are ready in consciousness and we're raising our level of awareness and consciousness. I believe we'll start making more realistic, real contact with whatever else is out there, because they know it's all about consciousness. Even when we talk about ghosts, it's the consciousness that keeps them locked in a loop. It's your consciousness that speaks to them and your love to help them free. It's our consciousness that helps us allow to see these other entities or beings or light Merkabahs. Once they know we're in the right place, then they'll be more known. If we're not ready, in the 60s, we probably would have been firing off nuclear weapons at them. So we're ready. That's what I believe, at least one of my personal beliefs.
Now, are you kind of the opinion, though, that the government may know a lot more than what they're letting on to?
I believe that. And being a Marine, I thought I was born on November 10th, the Marine Corps' birthday. I grew up, I was like, I'm meant to go to the Marine Corps. And I saw a lot of things that I wasn't allowed to talk about. And we had a lot of lies about stuff that was going on. So even at my lower level, I realized that things were being hidden from us. So do I believe that? Yes. What I have learned in my life, though, is balance. There is truth and lies in all things, spiritual, religious, government, and everything. And even in the lie lays the truth. That's why the lie was created. But there's always times that people exasperate what is really true or not. So are they hiding things? Yeah, sure. Is it as extreme maybe as some people say? Maybe, maybe not. But I definitely don't believe everything's being told to us. But I believe it's going to start being as we're becoming more aware, and our consciousness is like, hey, all this really is connected. We want some answers. So
yeah, and it just seems like more and more people are speaking out and they're opening up to the possibility of what could be happening here.
Yeah.
Even though this is it seems to be such a difficult phenomenon to kind of wrap your arms around. And
it is.
I mean, you've got whistleblowers coming out that left and right. Some of it's really kind of like, wow, some of it's really, really earth-shattering. Like, we are already traveling among the stars. We already, so it's kind of hard to know what part of this do I take in and believe, and what part of it do I say, well, that's just a bridge too far.
Yeah, I get it. I grew up, luckily I had a lot of really interesting experiences. For instance, my grandpa on my mom's side, he was in the Army Air Corps during World War II, and we talked about going to Antarctica. He drank when I was little too much and started talking about when he went to Antarctica in 1947 and fighting Nazis. When I was like 7, 8 years old, my dad was like, yeah, grandpa's crazy. And then later he passed, it was like, you know what? I think he was right. All of a sudden these documentaries start coming out about Antarctica. The Nazis were holding out. And there's been a lot of things going on since World War II. I think a lot of people get it. Werner von Braun knew. We know what was done with the Nazi scientists and Operation Paperclip and things. So yeah, I do believe a lot of things have been held from us. I'll tell you the way that I have felt, and even when supernatural things happen around me, and when we saw those light Merkabahs, the person I was with, I had to tell them, breathe, and I think that's a lot of people, we're becoming ready, but a lot of people just couldn't handle maybe knowing what the real truth is. And what's crazy is you're starting to hear more and more, the truth's even crazier than what these lies have been. I mean, our consciousness is everywhere. Look all around TV. I mean, you got movies, Star Wars, everything. There's truth and lies in all things. We know deep down that these things are real. And I really do believe you're going to see more and more as we're moving forward. It's really true. At least that's what I believe.
Now, what about these the ancient alien theories that perhaps our DNA was engineered by these beings?
Man, I've that for so long, and I know it heats a lot of people up. A lot of people have really gotten upset with me about that because they're like, "How can you believe in God or spirit and believe that?" I've done a lot of research, and my personal feeling is, I really do feel like there was some interaction. There was some interaction because if you really study, and I don't want to get all the way into it, but if you really study evolution, you can see all of a sudden there was a jump. And then nothing's changed since then. We really haven't gone anywhere. We've just became who we are now, and we've kind of stayed that way. I really do feel like there was an intermix somehow, and we were changed. We were manipulated in some way, maybe not necessarily for the bad purpose. I mean, here we are now, right? We're doing what we're supposed to do. But yeah, it's my personal belief that there was an involvement. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, going back to the Anunnaki, there's, Zachariah Sitchin wrote, in his writings, he wrote about the Anunnaki, that the human race was originally kind of bred or created as a slave race. What say you about that?
This has been another hot topic. Back in the day when I was younger, I couldn't get that out of my head before I even heard anything about that. And it made a lot of people upset around me. And I still have to kind of be honest with you. I really believe we were kind of bred as a slave race. And look around us now. I mean, we work 9 to 5. It's bred into us. We're working for corporations that pay us money so we can buy more of their products. A lot of it's got toxicity in it and things. So unfortunately, I do think some of that may have been true. But we are free if we believe so, and many are waking up. And that's, for me, what the spiritual journey of enlightenment is being, is showing people, well, you're more than this, but you have to get outside of your human flesh mind. But yeah, I feel strongly that originally there was a manipulation. For whatever reason it was, their mining or whatever that they wanted to create and not do themselves, or had subsidiaries that did work for them. A manipulation was made, and it was for us to kind of work for them. So
yeah, it is kind of hard to wrap your mind around the possibility of that.
It is.
How about this idea that extraterrestrials are kind of operating on this higher level of consciousness like you're talking about?
Yeah.
Have you kind of delved into that or had any experiences?
I have. I've meditate and a lot of spiritual experiences where astral projection. I do quantum healing where I can hear people's thoughts, and I'll just stop talking, and people get in loops, and I help with people, and they'll get in an emotional loop. So when people want to be enlightened, they seek enlightenment. And a lot of people right now are in a seeking mode, and this ties into all this. So when you seek, you're like a dog chasing its tail. You're seeking. And I believe you're seeing more and more of that mentality where people are kind of spinning. So for me, once I've got away from that spinning mentality, I could feel the higher consciousness. And when I was meditating, I was feeling my, God or spiritual guides on me, and being kind of led to help people and know when to do things. And then feeling these more supernatural events, to where even last night I saw something that was spinning around. I see orbs flashing and things. So I believe that's because my higher consciousness has evolved. And I do believe higher dimensional beings, whether they're versions of us, whether all these different what ifs could be, they're highly intellectual and more evolved with spiritually, where there's not as much talk. Because you even hear telepathy is one of the things that a lot of times you'll hear extraterrestrial contact made. There's no talking. I can hear you without even having to say anything. All these are higher levels of awareness and consciousness, whether they're benevolent or not. When we get to a higher level of consciousness, there's not as many words. You're feeling emotions and thoughts. There's more of a transcending of duality. And I believe that's where a lot of them operate. So when they're making contact with certain people, it's going to be the ones that are able to facilitate that communication, if you will. Not someone that's a non-believer whatsoever is going to have a hard time even seeing that. So for me, I believe the more we awaken and the more we raise our consciousness and a higher state of awareness and love within ourselves, etc., that it's going to be easier for us to communicate with these higher dimensional beings. Some people think they're demons, some people think they're angels, they're aliens, but one thing, whatever the label may be, they're operating at a higher level of consciousness in a different dimensions. Just like the fourth being spirits, you're looking at the fifth and sixth being these higher light beings, if you will. Buddhist monks, Tibetan monks, all sorts of different spiritual representatives know about your light body, your rainbow light body, your plasma light body. So these are no different when you're raising your level of awareness and consciousness, and you're raising your vibration because you're tuned to that God frequency. You can communicate with higher beings. And that's how people are channeling information for writing books like I did, or being clairvoyant, or, being all these different things. It's all really the same, to be quite honest with you. Whether clairvoyant or empathic or telepathic, you're receiving information from Akashic records of the universe. You're aware that everything's connected and you become part of it all, as the easiest way I could say it. So they're part of it too. And once we're realizing that now, that, hey, I feel like somehow all of this is connected. So
yeah, it's interesting because Richard Dolan in his latest book talks about people who are experiencers having kind of this, some through meditation, are having these types of experiences. Some don't like to use the term abduction, some like to say experiencers, but people who are in deep meditation, or they seem to be more likely to have these kinds of experiences, or are having these kinds of experiences. So it's interesting that you say that, because there does seem to be some research behind that as well. Like I said, Richard Dolan kind of talks about that in his latest book. I want to get into the topic because there's another topic I cover on the show, and that is near-death experiences.
I said I've had a couple of them.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I wanted to from your perspective of what you've read about or delved into this topic or experienced yourself, what can we learn about near-death experiences?
Well, I mean, I can start from the perspective of what I experienced and how it changed me. When I was in high school, was in a really bad car accident. I mean, almost died in it, real bad. Hit a huge pipeline tube, and I mean, it was really intense. Everything kind of changed for me. I lost interest in a lot of things, and I started what I'd call like I'd get glimpses, because I kind of saw that, like the light, if you will, and just didn't really identify with a lot of people as much, and got a lot quieter, and kind of saw glimpses of things that would kind of happen in the future, even more than I was when I was younger. And I think I've heard other people speaking about that as well. A lot of people that go through near-death experiences, like I knew, because I was raised pretty religious, you're here just this time, you praise the Lord and you pass and you hope for the best, right? I mean, so
sure.
Yeah. And I knew that there was another side. I knew there was something. I knew there was another side. I knew there was something else after. And I started experiencing like stranger, I guess, events around me that other people wouldn't see or hear, and feeling kind of disconnected from other people, seeing glimpses of the future. And I think a lot of people that I've researched just a tad bit that have had similar experiences from what I've seen, they know that there was another side. They decided. I mean, one time I was asked if I wanted to stay or go, or I wanted to stay or go, and I was told I was going to stay. So these people realize there's more than just here. It's more than just what we're doing. And once again, I kind of relate everything to consciousness, because a lot of Vedic yogic teachings that I study, from Nagamati Codex to the old yogis, is it's our consciousness. Once someone experiences a near-death experience, their consciousness, they're consciously aware that there's another realm that exists past this one. So many of us live for just this world, and we build all these materialistic things around us to make us feel better, but still are afraid to die. And I think a lot of people that have died and come back, I'm not afraid to die. After that point, I was always just afraid that maybe I wasn't living to the fullest. And I think a lot of people with near-death experiences realize that there's more than this. There's another realm beyond this. And there is something after, which is very comforting. But it's because their consciousness was shown it. They were shown it and they felt it. And then it's a knowing. So when you resonate with something, it's because of an internal gnosis within you. It's kind of like, I never was told that, but for some reason, I really feel like I know that. That's called a knowing without knowing. That's your internal gnosis. And I teach a lot of gnosis esoteric gnosis and internal gnosis. And that's what happens when a near-death experience happens. It's showing you, you're feeling it, you know it. Oh, I thought that, I feel that, I'm more at ease. You'll find people that have near-death experiences like that. They come back with the new vigor for life. They want to experience and do more. They tell people there's nothing to be afraid of. There's more. Death's absolutely safe. It's just moving into another step. So for me and what I've researched, that's what I've seen with near-death.
Yeah, that does seem to be a common trend, that they kind of come back with not having a fear of death. And, there's also this kind of idea that there really is no judgment per se. I think a lot of people fear judgment. And if they die, hey, I've done these bad things. I've done horrible things to people. What is going to happen to me?
Yeah.
So, people fear judgment. Some of that perhaps is, religious based.
Yes.
But it seems to be a pretty common trend too, that people come back to say, hey, this is not about judgment. Now, maybe it's about learning from this life and, taking lessons from it. But that does seem to be a common trend as well, is that, there's no need to fear death because there isn't judgment on the other side.
Yeah.
Maybe the only judgment is our own judgment of ourselves.
I agree. And I teach that a lot. It's interesting you say that, because one of my core teachings is that we're not judged. The only person that's judging you is you judging yourself, right? The universe, God, prime source, divine, great spirit loves you. And you're a child. So it's us that holds that judgment against herself. And it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that. Like I said, I'm an isolationist too. I don't watch a whole lot. So when you say stuff, I go, wow, that's because I do feel that's one of my core teachings. We only judge ourselves, but everything we do is a reflection of us. So if I judge myself and I don't forgive myself, then I judge other people and I judge you, because it's a reflection of me. So don't judge yourself. If you judge someone else, you're only judging yourself. And yeah, you're right. Because a lot of things changed for me after multiple near-death experiences. I've always been judged my whole life. I'm a big dude. I'm fully tattooed up. I was a Marine, grew up in gangs. So for me, it was always, being judged on, not understanding why people are doing that. And those experiences only exacerbated it, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I don't believe there's any judgment. It's only up on ourselves. We really are here to learn and be loving awareness and learn that what we need to learn. And a lot of people believe in reincarnation when they come back too, because they get a lot of start seeing different lives that they were as well. So that's things that I experienced too. I started seeing different lives that I had lived and such. So yeah, there's much more to all of it than just this. But
now, seeing or going back, what did you bring from that from previous lives, or seeing maybe perhaps glimpses of previous lives?
Yeah, when it first happened when I was younger, I just kept seeing a lot of ancient stuff. Was really tied into certain parts of Egypt and things, not really understanding why I was seeing that. Really detached from everyone. No, I lost all interest in high school. I stopped. My senior year, I was playing football, and I had a letter to play for Oregon. I just stopped playing football right in the very beginning of the season after the accident. Decided I was still going to the Marines. I cut my my schooling because I had enough credits. I left at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So I just cut contact, didn't hang out with any friends, didn't do anything, and just was like, this is not, there's more to life than just this. And I don't know, it changed me trying to figure out really more who I was. But as soon as like I was kind of toying with that, I had already signed the paperwork and went straight to the Marines, and then kind of had to put that on the back burner. So when I came back out afterwards, it was a lot of it rushed to me. And I kind of always had the dreams of the past lives, but now I have a diary, and I know different segments that I've been and where I've been. The hints, I used to do it for other people, but now I just have people do it themselves. But the hints are all around us, though. It's all about who you are and what you think about. If you focus on what you focus on, more than likely you'll figure out what your past lives were. So for me, I've been here many times, and it's always the same type of stuff, like ascension teacher, spiritual guides, things like that. So
interesting. Let's talk about the new book, The Healing Garden. Kind of give us a preview of the book.
Yeah.
And what to expect.
It's a beautiful book. It's 5x7 book, 104 pages long. If anyone's familiar with the Tao Te Ching, it feels very Tao-like from Lao Tzu, Nag Hammadi Codex, like the Lost Gospels of Thomas. It was about the last year and a half experiencing a deeper awakening when I was working out in a garden in the early mornings, where it was just me by myself. I was kind of just being like words in my head being told things. So I was on my phone making notes, coming home and writing it all down. And then when it stopped coming to me, I would just stop. So I did this for about a year. And then one day it was like, you're done. Now it's time to write the book. So now I have a book that's written. It's all verses. It's all very spiritual. When I revised it, it was edited by a company in Canada. And then Steuben Press did the publishing for me. I released it yesterday. It's available on my Etsy store now. And it's, 24 hours into it, I think I've sold almost about 30 copies or so. So it's selling consistently. It's very healing for me. It kind of feels like it unwinds your mind and places it back. It's just a lot of simple truths, very Confucius-like, if you will, I guess, if you were to read it, or if you're familiar with the Bible, like a Proverbs or Psalms. And it's just everything that's come to me spiritually. Was told it, wrote it down, and just made a book out of it. So it's powerful, though. It's got a deep.
And I think I heard you talking in another interview about downloads.
Yeah.
What this idea of downloads, where do they come from? Do you know, or it just kind of comes to you?
It's interesting because it's a newer term, and everyone has a different way to express. We're all fractals of God. We're all children of God. So a download is just another way to say that you're receiving this light or information, if you will, right? Light, the speed of light. There's a lot of information in light. So when we're receiving these downloads, just kind of like how I channeled my book, where I'm receiving the Holy Spirit. Everyone's got a different word for it. But a lot of times these times can happen if we want to look at it scientifically, when the Schumann resonance is up. The Schumann resonance has been off the charts this past couple of years, way past its 7.83. The Earth is vibrating in its precession, but now its resonance has been way higher. People experience what they call ascension symptoms. They feel sick or lightheaded, and then tired, and then all of a sudden they come out of it, and it's like renewed, and you like know extra things. I'll get those times where I'm like that, and then I'll come on and do a live show, and it's like I go back and watch it, and it doesn't feel like it was even me. That's how this book was for me. We're receiving downloads. A lot of people believe their DNA is being upgraded and changed. The old rishis and siddhis of ancient times in Yogic and Vedic cultures believed they were 12-strand DNA. The more we become enlightened, the more all is within us. I teach that as you're awakening in your pineal gland, your kundalini awakening, third eye awakening, you're becoming your true self, and your 12-strand, your DNA is awakening. So you're seeing the world for what it truly is. And a lot of that has to do with really letting all the constructs go. I guess if you could put it any other way, as soon as you let all go, you can let all in. I teach that. So as you let all your insecurities go, and all what you believe is and isn't, you just let it go and surrender, you can receive whatever God or the universe, the planet has now, which is this new energy, this new information, if you will, because we're connected. Everything's connected. As you receive that, it's like a stronger knowing. Things that you didn't know before, all of a sudden you're going, wow, I get this now. So there's a lot of clarity in it. Being able to see more a little bit into the future. People get glimpses. Sometimes people get it in different ways. For me, I get like a really big vision. Like it's the general looking at the whole battlefield. I can see everything and really understand it now more than I was able to. So when I hear that term download, that's what I believe. You'll hear it in this community as channeling or receiving the Holy Ghost or the Spirit or receiving light codes, but all different ways to really say the same thing, which is I'm receiving, information from energy and spirit or whatever it may be. So,
well, great, Mike. Where again? Mention where people can find the book. Is it on Amazon or anywhere else, or just through Etsy?
Right now, it's just through Etsy because I've really worked with this group. I'm working with Amazon and Barnes & Noble, so hopefully I'll have them soon. But right now, if you go to Third Eye Essence on Instagram or my Etsy page, the Third Eye Essence store, you can click the link in the bio and it's there. And it's been selling very consistently. So right now, that's where I'm leaving it, giving everyone I've been working with the chance first. And then I'm going to start moving forward from that point to see where it'll go. But they can go to Instagram at Third Eye Essence and click the link in the bio, or just go to Etsy at the Third Eye Essence store.
And I'll link that up as well on this episode. And thanks a lot, Mike, for talking with me tonight. It's been a fascinating discussion. This stuff is all fascinating to me. I have an open mind to this. Again, these different types of phenomena, to me, I'm always interested in seeing, where the common threads are and how this stuff relates. And it really is kind of eye-opening to talk with somebody like you. So thank you for the work you do. And thanks for joining me, and have a great night.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike.